Welcome to UticaTV's Mumbles. My name's Nico Leonard, and today I'm joined with Doug Croft, professor and chief operator of WPNR, the local radio station of Utica University. Thanks so much for joining us today, Doug.
Great to be here.
Yeah. So how would you define your position at Utica?
Well, it's a staffalty position where I'm mostly staff and I run the radio station at campus, make sure things are operating there well. But then I also teach courses within the communication and media curriculum, so things like public speaking and media criticism, and so I'm a lecturer there. So I'm a little 50-50, sometimes 60-40.
Right.
Yeah.
So was there anything specific that brought you to the position you're at now with the radio, being a professor? Is it something you always wanted to do? Kind of bring us through that process.
Well, when I was in high school, going way back, I wasn't really positive what direction I wanted to go to, but I loved music and I loved sports. And when I was deciding what to do to go to school for and what I want to do for a career, a lot of people suggested that I should be a communication major. And so I started looking at programs, and I eventually settled on this program at Utica University. It's different than it was, or different then than it is now. But it was communication, an arts major now it's a communication media major.
Right.
And I spent 4 years here as a student learning things, and then went out in the quote-unquote real world for a little bit, went to grad school, and then found my way back here to sort of reinvigorate the radio station. And it's been a long time since then. So how I got there was a love of music and sports, and ultimately deciding, to try to keep pushing in that direction, and something just opened up here, and I get to do radio, I get to do music, I get to do sports, so it's pretty fun.
So where did you go to grad school?
At SUNY Brockport,
okay.
Just outside of Rochester, New York.
And you studied?
Communication studies there, okay. So it's a lot like the programs here, except it was much more research oriented at the graduate level,
right.
And connecting it to things like my graduate research was aimed at the treatment of indigenous cultures within media and things like that.
So how is it being an alumni to now working here? Like, do you feel like more of a connection to the radio station because you've been here for so long?
I mean, absolutely, right? Because it's been in my home more or less for, if you're putting it together, like 21, 22 years
right.
at this point in some way, shape, or form. It feels a lot of times like it's, it's not my place, it's the student place, but it's a place that it feels like home to me. Like I feel like I belong there. And so that, if you go in there, I feel like everything, if you look around the radio station, it's sort of like my mark is there.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Yeah. You know it's yours.
Yeah.
So does the radio station here on campus, for people who don't know much about the radio station, I know a good amount, but...
Sure. Yeah, just a little bit.
Yeah. Does it just play music, or does it cover other things? Go ahead and touch on that.
Some of that depends on who's involved every semester, right? And so obviously we play music. We try to play music that not everybody, stuff that people appreciate, but also stuff that they don't know, perhaps sometimes. And then we cover athletics and Utica University athletics as much as we possibly can, both with the athletics team and their stream and whatever. But other than that, the programming is probably aimed at what we can do for our local campus community, or what's happening in our local community. And so sometimes that's public service oriented programs that aim at sort of like what good things people are doing. Sometimes that's just making production and announcements about stuff that is happening on campus to try to keep the student population and our faculty informed of things they can attend or do. Reminders of things like health advocacy and education advocacy and things like that. So there's a lot of production and programming that happens that's not just music or sports.
Right.
But it kind of depends on who's making it every semester and how much of it gets done.
Right. And so like with the sports broadcasting thing, I know you guys have a really tight-knit group of guys, girls, anyone who loves sports broadcasting. It's a pretty cool program that you have.
Yeah.
Would you say that a lot of your games are streamed through the radio station, or do you just work together with the stream? How does that all work?
So it depends. Every every week we meet to figure out, and schedule-wise, what's really capable. We try to leave some parts of our programming, a lot of the weekends, open so that we can put a lot of the games on the airwaves without interrupting other student programming. But if it's not all games, but a vast majority, 90 some odd percentile of games are at minimum streamed on the athletic website, Empire app, however you want to qualify that, the all access connection at UticaPioneers.com.
Yeah, stretch portal.
Stretch portal. So you can pretty much watch those games there, whether we're there or not, but we try to be on most of those contests, so you're hearing what's happening on those games. Parents hearing players' names, things like that, what's going on in play. But we try to take a good component of those and in some sort of, fair and balanced way, ensuring that we're broadcasting as much as we can equally on the airwaves. The same amount of men's soccer games is the same amount of football games that we're putting on the air. It doesn't always work out that way schedule-wise, but we do our best to try to make sure that everyone's getting covered and feels like they're getting coverage in the local community as well as on the stream.
Right, and it's one thing if one team's making it to the Frozen Four, and
that's a different,
in the first round.
I don't like to think of that as a different thing, but it is the longer teams go off into playoffs.
It's the exception.
It's like we have to cover that for the sake of the university, and because it's fun and we want to support those teams.
And they're doing well,
So.
So what would you say your favorite thing to play on the radio is? It doesn't even have to be music.
I mean, for me, it is music.
Yeah,
for me, it is music, personally, and because I focus so much on the background stuff, and I have my hands in so many different things at the school that I'm trying to keep doing and maintenancing, and focus on my classes and things too. But when I get the opportunity to, I like to play metal on the airwaves.
I knew you were going to say that.
So it's not too often that I get to spend a lot of time doing that, but it is one of my favorite things to do.
Right. So. I had a feeling you were going to say that. I really wanted to hear it. So why radio? Out of all of the elements of communications and media, which is kind of the allure of the major, and a lot of people know that, it's so broad and it gives you so many opportunities for different things. Yeah. Why did you choose radio? What was so enticing about it?
I mean, it kind of does go back to the question you just asked, which is, the real answer for myself personally is when I was a kid in the 90s in my bedroom listening to music that I didn't think anybody else liked. And every once in a while I'd find somebody who really enjoyed that music just like me. One of the most exciting things was to be able to share that with other people, to play some of those lesser unknown bands and things like that for my friends. So to be able to do that on the airwaves for a local community or get other students excited about things, even if it's not metal, even if it's something that they care about or a genre that I've heard before and say, oh, have you ever heard this one before? I still get a kick out of that.
Yeah, always.
I always have, I think I always will. And so that's a big component of it. Radio in general, probably because, I'm, although this is fun, I'm not much of a video guy. I don't love being on video.
Yeah.
So this is, you know what I mean?
Step outside the comfort zone here.
Yeah, but you teach communication. I'm in front of people every day.
Exactly.
So it is what it is.
Yeah.
But I'm definitely more of a behind the scenes kind of person, and so radio allows you to be that person a little bit. I can be whoever I need to be for radio, and I can switch genres. I can be a board operator, so that's a big part of why I like radio. But also because I think from an educational standpoint, if you connect that to students, students being able to, that same mentality, right? Practice using their voice without a lot of pressure in front of people. There's always people think about they get nervous thinking that there's people listening and they don't want to mess something up on the airwaves. But it's a great opportunity to sort of practice using your voice, play some music that's fun for folks, try to enjoy the experience of broadcasting. A lot of times when you go to commercial radio, if people still work in the industry, they don't get to sort of be as creative or play the song that they really want to. And so radio, yes, but college radio specifically for me, because
Just
of
gonna say
the creative component and the ability to practice and have fun with it.
Right. It's almost easier to practice your public speaking on radio
Yeah.
than in a public speaking class like you taught with me that time.
Correct.
That was a lot harder than stepping on the airwaves for the first time.
It is, right?
Mhm. Or
And-
looking
and
at a camera like this.
But the soft skills that one learns in radio, and then the background stuff, learning audio production and things,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like video production is much harder, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe that's just from my perspective.
Right. It's all a perspective.
But the audio component of it from the background, when you're like learning to use various software programs or how to script something in sort of active voice versus passive voice, the preparation for games in terms of organization, even if someone doesn't go into radio itself,
Right.
in the long run, they take those skills into their graduate programs and become much more organized. People who are working at their MBA, there's teachers that suddenly feel way more confident in their voice, and how to present things to students that might make more sense to them. They think about it logically, and I don't think people realize that while they get to play their favorite song, but they don't realize that until 10 or 15 years later. All of a sudden, they're teaching and they're thinking, "I got that skill from practicing at the radio station." So maybe not, hopefully not 10 or 15, but you get my point.
Yeah, there's a value to it. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So what would you say is one of the more challenging things that you've came across while running the radio station, specifically here? Or maybe just a challenging component of the radio station?
In the larger grand sense, it's the maintenance of it, and not in terms of the cleaning and things. I mean, that's a part of the daily life too. But I mean,
Right.
like the making sure that the paperwork is correct, making sure that we're updated on our rules, making sure we're updated on all our licensing, all of our performance rights organization fees or royalty fees. It's a lot for one person with students to really reorganize a radio station almost every semester to every year. The day-to-day difficult component of that is then, while you're trying to maintenance and make sure that it's running legally and running well and representing the school well in the public, doing some sort of sports journalism, all these other basic things, is the organization of schedule and things sometimes. We're running it complete with the students, so you have to deal with 20 different people's schedules while also having a need to do a certain amount of things per week or make sure you're hitting broadcast schedules. So I don't know how college radio stations these days. I remember how it worked when I was a student, but I don't know how they do it without sort of using the technology to help them move forward, like using automation and things. That's crazy to me.
Yeah.
So a lot of the difficult component for me is on the bigger scale is making sure that we're in legal order
Yeah.
and running well and the tech's working.
Yeah.
On the smaller scale, it's the constant state of change. It's like rebooting a radio station from scratch almost every time, every year.
And just as you're getting the flow and getting it right, the semester's suddenly over, you're in finals
Yeah.
week.
Or students are not unlike yourself. As soon as they learn everything and they're ready to go and we can really start cooking, you're like, and it's time to graduate. So that's usually how it goes.
Yeah,
But
I know what you mean.
But it's still fun nonetheless.
Yeah, absolutely. So how would you describe how you balance teaching comm classes and still doing everything you've said with the radio station? Is it overwhelming? Is it rewarding?
Both of those.
Yeah, I figured.
Both of those. I think, broadcasting at the radio station or working at the radio station is sometimes a way for me to escape from the amount of stuff that I have to do related to teaching. That, when I'm facing 100 papers to grade, sometimes the radio station is a wonderful place to go just say, I'm going to focus on this for right now.
Yeah.
Not to delay the grading and stuff.
Right.
But, and then, the radio station is a lot, but I want the students to run it. It is, as much as it is, a lot of it comes from my push or direction. I want student leadership to take control of it. I want them to be able to do that.
Yeah, you're guiding them. Yeah.
And so, it's a weird thing to say, the balance of them, I say it's 50-50. It never really is. It's sort of like some weeks the radio station is 90 and the classes are 10. And sometimes the classes are, 95 and the radio station is only 5, and we hope the students know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then there's other times of the year where it's, just me and one student, like in the winter break or something.
Right.
One of the challenging components of that is all of the students go away, and so I don't have classes anymore, but the radio station's 100% me.
It's barren.
Yeah. Well,
You and maybe a
it's
commuter,
just me making sure that all of the processes that we would normally do, that would usually take 10 or 15 students to do, it's every single one of those is me now. And so that's where a lot of my challenge lies in terms of that balance. I never feels balanced, I guess is where I'm headed with that, right? Is that it's sort of like I do what I have to do when it needs to be done.
Right.
And sometimes that looks 50-50 and sometimes that's 70-30 and
it's fluid.
Just roll with it. So overwhelmed and fun at the same time.
Yeah, that's the fun of it.
Right.
So what kind of advice would you give to a new host on the radio station, someone that's just starting, eager to start,
Relax.
Yeah.
Relax. Try to have fun with it. I mean, there's not a lot of folks, will find themselves being, there's so many different jobs in the communication field, or we even have lots of folks that are not communication majors. If you're a biology major and you love music and you want time on the airwaves, we'd love to have you at the radio station and try to have some fun with it and join the staff, figure things out. It doesn't have to just be communication media people.
We got a PT that runs music,
Right. Our music director is a physical therapy grad student.
Yeah.
So,
he just loves it.
Right. And used to broadcast sports for us. Shout out Jake. Point is that if a new person comes in, you're there to have fun, to practice something that not a lot of people get to do. And so I'm not suspecting that someone, I use bio as an example, but any major, 20 years from now is going to get to go play on the radio or, practice those skills in sort of a safe environment or play their favorite song and have memories of that or join something cool like a radio station that will give you all sorts of college memories. And so try to think in a larger scale of don't worry what's happening right now or who's listening at the moment. A new person, I would say, try to realize that this is a very unique experience for you and to have some fun with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that wraps up this week's episode of Mumbles. Thank you, Doug, for joining us today. And thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week.